This is 5.2 of the homework video guide, and for question number 1, I need to match the graph of y equals to mx plus b with its closest description here. Okay, so for part A, I know that my slope here is negative, and if my slope is negative, let's take a look at the possible options that are available. Graph number 1, we definitely have a negative slope because our person is walking down the hill, and for graph number 3, I also have a negative slope because my person is walking down the hill. Alright, so if I have a negative slope, graphs 1 and 3 would fit the criteria so far, but then we also have a negative y-intercept. Okay, so over here on graph number 1, this is a positive y-intercept, right? So my y-intercept is greater than 0. But on graph number 3, my y-intercept is negative, right? It's less than 0 here. Alright, so for question number 1a, that would match up with graph number 3. And if we continue to look at negative slopes, for part C, I have a negative slope, but the y-intercept is positive. Once again, this is a positive y-intercept, and the slope here is negative. So graph number 1 would fit criteria C. Okay, so that's it for graphs A and C there. Let's take a look at graph B now. For graph B, I have a positive y-intercept, right? A positive y-intercept. So the graphs that have a positive y-intercept are graphs 2, 4, and 6, I believe. So for graph number 2, I have a positive y-intercept because my person is walking up the hill. And graph number 4, I have a positive y-intercept because my person is walking up the hill. And for graph number 6, I also have a positive y-intercept. But now I need a y-intercept that's going to be negative, right? So when b is less than 0, that means the y-intercept is negative. Okay, so for graph number 2, my y-intercept here is positive, so b is greater than 0. For graph number 4, my y-intercept equals to 0. And for graph number 6, my y-intercept is actually less than 0, right? It's below the x-axis. So for question 1b, it would match up with graph number 6. So let's put a 6 right there. And if we're sticking with positive slopes here, let's take a look at letter D now. I have a positive slope and a positive y-intercept. So that's going to line up with graph number 2, right? Graph number 2, because graph number 2, if I use my green marker here, there's a positive y-intercept and the slope is already positive as we established. So that's it for the first 4 letters there. And with that, let's take a look at criteria E and criteria F now. And now for criteria E, the slope here is going to be 0, right? Now, if you have a slope of 0, that means you have a horizontal line. And the only graph with a horizontal line is option number 5, right? So that means letter E will be option number 5 because this slope is 0. Usually in class, I would put like a person on the far left-hand side, and this person is walking horizontally. That means the slope is equal to 0. And for the last one here, I have b equals to 0 here. So this means the y-intercept is equal to 0, and that matches along with graph number 4, right? The y-intercept here is at the origin, which is at 0. So this will be graph number 4. All right, so that's it for question number 1a. Let's move on to question number 3 now. So for question number 3, I need to determine the equation of the graph. Okay, so for 3a, here's my graph right here. It's a horizontal line. And it takes a height of 2, right? So that means the equation here is just y equals to 2. So any horizontal graph starts off with y equals 2, and then the value of that height, which is 2 in this case. And for graph B, I have another horizontal line. So if I have a horizontal line, the equation starts off as y equals 2, and then figure out the height. So it's 1, so negative 1 and negative 2. So this height is negative 2. So y equals to negative 2 for my equation. And for letter C, I notice I have a vertical line. Whenever you have a vertical line, the equation starts off with x equals 2. And now just look at where that vertical line is positioned. So it's positioned at not negative 1, but at negative 2, right? So this vertical line has the equation of x equals to negative 2. And for letter D, once again, I have a vertical line. So that means the equation starts off as x equals 2. And then just figure out what the x value is. Well, this is a 1, and that blue line has x value of 2, so my equation is x equals to 2. All right, so that's it for question number 3 there. Not a hard exercise, but some basic vocab for vertical and horizontal lines. Let's take a look at question number 4 now. For question number 4, I need to determine the equation of a line through the given pair of points. All right, so let's just draw a little sketch here. if I have the point -4, 1, roughly that's probably in quadrant number 2 here. So let's just say this is -4, 1. And then I have 6, 1, which is in quadrant number 1. So maybe I'll just say this is 6, and I'll say that's 1. So this is the point 6, 1. And then if I draw a line connecting those 2 points, it's a horizontal line, right? So when you have a horizontal line, the equation starts off as y equals 2. And then what is that height? Well, the height here is just 1, right? So that orange line has a maximum height of 1. So the equation is y equals to 1. Okay, so move on to the next one, letter C here. So we're given the coordinates -2, 0 and 5, 0. Let's start off and just kind of sketch those 2 points. So maybe this point right here is -2, 0. And this point right here, 5, 0 is maybe over here. 5, 0. And if you had to draw a line connecting those 2 points, the blue dot and the orange dot, it would just be another horizontal line, right? But this horizontal line is right on the axis, the x-axis, and that red line has a maximum height of 0, right? So it's always the y values that you're looking at when you're dealing with a horizontal line there, right? So the equation is y equals to 0. And now let's move on to letter E now. Now for letter E, we're not really given like numerical values, so we can just kind of approximate a comma b. Maybe I'll put that over here, a comma b. So maybe I'll call this A and I'll call this B. And then I have the point C comma B. Maybe C is further down the horizontal line, but it has the same height as the first point. And as you can see, A comma B and C comma B, they have the same height. And if you draw a line connecting those 2 points, it's another horizontal line. And whenever you have a horizontal line, it always starts off as y equals 2. Then ask yourself, what is that height, right? Okay, well, I know this point is C comma B. And the height here is b, right? So the equation is y equals to b. That horizontal line has a maximum height of b, so the equation is y equals to b. Okay. All right, let's take a look at question number 5. And for question number 5, I need to write the equation of the line given the characteristics. Okay, so for question 5a, I have a vertical line and it passes through the point 3, 6. All right, so let's go ahead and sketch this first. So the point 3, 6 is in quadrant number 1. Maybe it's over here, 3, 6. And if I have a vertical line that passes through that point, the vertical line will look like this. Now, what's the equation of that green line? Well, since this is a vertical line, you start off by writing x equals 2. And how far to the right have you gone? Well, I've gone to the right by 3 units, so my equation is x equals to 3. Now, if I look at question number 5c, it's a very similar problem. Question 5c is asking for the horizontal line that passes through the point 3, 6. So if I go back to my graph here, we know that the graph goes through the point 3, 6, so I'll put a red dot here. Now, if I have a horizontal line, the horizontal line will look like this, right? So what's the equation of that orange line? Well, whenever you have a horizontal line, the equation always starts off as y equals 2. And what's the height of that orange line? Well, the height is 6, right? So the equation is y equals to 6 for the horizontal line. So for question 5c, the answer would be y equals to 6. And for question 5a, the answer is x equals to 3. All right, so questions 5a and 5a and 5c are similar. All right, moving on to question 5b now. I have a vertical line that passes through the point -2, -4. So let's go ahead and draw a grid here. And where's the point -2, -4? Well, that's in quadrant number 3. It's somewhere over here, right? So this is the point -2, -4. Now, if I have a vertical line will look like this. All right, so what's the equation of that vertical line? Well, since it's a vertical line, it always starts off as x equals 2. And how far to the left have you gone? Well, I've gone to the left by -2 units, so my equation is x equals to -2. Okay. And for question 5D, very similar to 5B, this time I have a horizontal line that passes through the point -2, -4. So going back to my graph here, if I draw a horizontal line that passes through that point of -2, -4, what's the equation of that orange horizontal line? Well, a horizontal line starts off as y equals 2. And what's the height of that orange line there? Well, the height is -4, right? So the equation would be y equals to -4. So for 5D, the answer is y equals to -4.